What's going on, everybody? James from The Conservative here, and I want to talk about how you could potentially end up paying for critical race theory to be taught in all of our schools to all of our children, not just at the university level, but all the way down K through 12. So we're going to jump right into it with the very first article coming from the New York Post, titled "White House Mulling Grants for Critical Race Theory in Classrooms." The article says the Biden administration wants to spend taxpayer money on so-called critical race theory lessons for the nation's students, in a move that critics say is meant to appease far-left Democrats by teaching kids, quote, nonsense. A new rule proposed by the U.S. Education Department says financial grants could encourage schools to incorporate teaching and learning practices that reflect the diversity, identities, histories, contributions, and experiences of all students. The plan, posted on the National Archives Federal Register website, cites as examples the New York Times Magazine's controversial 1619 project and the work of Ibram X. Kendi, author of the best-selling book How to Be an Anti-Racist. If you're not familiar with Mr. Kendi, he is the professor that got slammed for calling Amy Coney Barrett a white colonizer, and this is the book that he authored, How to Be an Anti-Racist. I will link this article about Amy Coney Barrett down in the comment section, as well as the other articles that we talk about today. So I just wanted to bring this to your attention because it looks like some of our tax money could very well be spent in introducing this critical race theory to our students, all the way as early as kindergarten. Obviously going all the way up through 12th grade, we already know that this is taking place at the university level, but when you're talking about the university, you're talking about most people who can think for themselves, or at least form their own opinion. When you're talking about kindergartners, first grade, second grade, I have a young child. He's very impressionable. Anything that dad thinks is cool, he thinks is cool. So what do you think will happen when all of the adults at his school are telling him, all of these things about critical race theory, and they think it's the bee's knees? Well, they're going to be much more influenced to follow suit than somebody who is, say, post high school graduate, 18, 19, early 20s, all the way up to adulthood. They're going to be able to form their own opinion and think for themselves. So in my opinion, this looks like the far left is trying to, for lack of a better term, indoctrinate our children. We all know there have been other governments or regimes that have focused on indoctrinating children to change the public opinion and to change the mind of the future generation. So I think we all know what leads what that rabbit hole leads to, when it's fully fleshed out. But this article here, I will also link this down here as well, or not article, but the page on the Federal Register goes through the entire breakdown of everything that they are proposing, and it does use that R word an awful lot. The R word that I'm talking about, it talks about things like injustice and things of that nature. So it's definitely an interesting read what they are suggesting that we, our tax money goes to pay for our kids to learn. So what's the fallout of this? Because there are some schools that are already getting some backlash for things that are similar. Let's talk about the first gentleman that got into the media's attention for something like this. This coming from The Sun, speaking out, dad pulls daughter from, quote, woke $54,000 a year private school in New York City that, quote, brainwashes students with cancel culture agenda. I'm sure some of you have probably already heard about this, but the article says a dad has decided to pull his daughter from $54,000 a year private school in New York City because he believes it brainwashes students with cancel culture agenda. In a 1,700-word letter, Andrew Gutman announced he chose not to re-enroll his daughter as he slammed Brearley School's cowardly and appalling lack of leadership by appeasing an anti-intellectual liberal mob. The dad has accused the school of trying to brainwash students rather than promoting critical thinking. By viewing every element of education, every aspect of history, and every facet of society through the lens of skin color and race, we are desecrating the legacy of Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. He wrote in a letter that was published on Barry Weiss blog on April 13th. Gutman told the New York Post on Saturday that he mailed the letter to 650 different families because someone had to speak out. She hasn't been brainwashed yet by the school, but she's had me at home, he said about his daughter. I'm not sure that's true of the other kids. Someone had to do it. Someone had to light the match. Everyone's so afraid of cancel culture. We're going to destroy the city. We're going to destroy the country. Gutman, who runs his family's chemical business, said he does not regret writing the letter. Last year, he refused to sign the school's anti-racism pledge. I thought they were going to kick my daughter out then, he said. They didn't, but next year they have the pledge built into the yearly school contract. According to the Washington Free Beacon, the pledge asked the parents of prospective students to explain how their family's values align with the school's, quote, commitment to creating an anti-racist and inclusive school community. The application also states that the school requires all members, including at least one parent or guardian, to participate in required anti-racist training and ongoing reflection. How does focusing on this topic help? If we're constantly drilling into our kids' heads that it's so important that the color of this person's skin or the color of that person's skin is so important, I believe most of us know by now that discrimination based on the color of skin is a taught behavior. It's not something that you're born with. Kids don't see it. It's taught. By focusing on these things, in my opinion, we are teaching them this. It is not productive to have these things in our classroom, in my opinion. If I was this dad and I was fortunate enough to have a kid going to a private school and I was fortunate enough to be able to afford $54,000 a year, I would take my kid out too. No question, absolutely. And I wouldn't sign up to go into any anti-racism classes or anything ridiculous like that. I know who I am. I don't need to go there just so that my kid can go to your school. That's ridiculous. So here's another parent that came out shortly afterward inside the growing underground network of parents fighting anti-racism in New York City schools. Until last summer, Harvey Goldman had no idea that his 9-year-old daughter was learning about George Floyd's death and Black Lives Matter, as well as her own, quote, white privilege at the $43,000 a year school, Heschel, at the $43,000 per year Heschel School in Manhattan. Now he's part of an underground network of parents in New York City and around the country, many of whom are left-leaning, fighting what they believe is the undue focus of race by schools as part of the new, quote, woke culture. Note how it said most of these people are left-leaning? Most of these people are from the Democratic Party. And they're going against things that Joe Biden, a Democratic president, is pushing because they're going too far. This is too far. You don't mess with kids. Anyway, that's all I got for you today. I hope you all enjoyed. I will leave all of the articles linked down below in the comment section so that you can look at them on your own. Remember, do your own research. Don't trust me. Don't take my word for it. Don't believe the mainstream media. Do your own research. Research is knowledge, and knowledge is power. Have a great day. Thank you for tuning in. I hope I will see you next time.